Thursday Night Football, Jay. We got Thursday Night Football, Cincinnati, and who's this other team? Urban Meyer's Jacksonville Jaguars. Jamar
Yeah,
Chase.
for now at least.
Jamar Chase is the man of the hour, the leader for NFL Rookie of the Year right now, which is insane because normally this is a quarterback award, and I still think it's going to go to a quarterback. It's at the point now where if Trey Lance just plays 6 games and plays well in those 6 games, he's going to win the damn thing because Trevor Lawrence is throwing all kind of interceptions. Mac Jones isn't throwing enough. Justin Fields, I saw Benjamin Albright tweet out, everybody who thinks that game and Justin Fields' inability to move the ball, anybody who thinks that was Matt Nagy's fault was going to be very upset when they watched the eating crow when they watched the All-22. So I'm assuming Fields did himself no favors in that matchup as well, and we kind of talked about that first game for a rookie QB on the road versus a great defense. Probably not the best situation for him, but Jamar Chase has been balling. A touchdown in the first 3 games. He's the first player in NFL history to do that, have 25-yard plus touchdowns in the first 3 games of his career, like I think in the history of the game. So, I mean, he's already off to a hot start on low volume. Where are you at with this game with Cincinnati being favored by 7.5? And Jacksonville actually played Arizona pretty tough that first half of the game, and then it just was kind of broken wide open when Trevor Lawrence threw that flea flicker interception for a touchdown, and then that was pretty much a wrap for Jacksonville. What are your thoughts on this matchup right here?
I think it's going to be better than people think. You know, we've seen Jacksonville kind of struggle on offense, but there's also seen some pretty good things from them as well. I think I'm still leaning towards taking Cincinnati on the spread, even though it's 7.5, which is a little bit more than I'd like it to be. The Bengals are still 2-1 against the spread, and the Jaguars are 0-3. So they've never covered a spread. Never. So what makes me think they're going to cover a spread this week? Like we've talked about for weeks now, you know, after week 1, I really noticed, and a lot of people, I'm not going to just say I'm the only one noticed this, but the Bengals defense is a lot better than people gave them credit for coming into the season, and they've continued to look good. Like we talked about with Najee Harris last week, no running back, period. They've faced Dalvin Cook, they faced David Montgomery, and now they face Najee Harris. No running back has ever rushed for more than 60 yards against them, or 61 yards, I think is the exact number. So you look at James Robinson, you look at, you know, Carlos Hyde, they're not going for over that number. There's no way there's not going to be enough volume. But then you look at Trevor Lawrence, who is throwing so many interceptions right now. That's going to create short fields for Jamar Chase. That's going to create short fields for Joe Burrow. That's going to create short fields for Joe Mixon. Players that are playing really, really well. You know, we want Joe Burrow to throw the ball a ton. We want him to be super efficient. But that offense is actually playing pretty well. They're playing methodically. They're moving the ball slowly. They're working through Joe Mixon instead of relying on Joe Burrow to throw the ball 30, 40 times every single game. But this week, I think it's going to be more the same, ground and pound. I think it's going to be kind of close,
Jay,
but I can see Cincy running away with it. What's up?
Yo, we've got some breaking news. We got some breaking news. Richard Sherman signs with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Just happened. Richard Sherman is a Tampa Bay Buc. They realized that they need some defensive help. What are your thoughts, man? Richard Sherman is a Buccaneer. Breaking news just happened. Is Sherman still good? Is he going to help this defense out? Could they have used Richard Sherman last week versus the Rams?
I don't know if they could have used him last week. I'm not sure if he's going to stop Deshaun Jackson from running way down the field. But what I think he provides more than anything is he provides more leadership for that team. The defense has been kind of reeling a little bit. Bringing in a guy like Richard Sherman could really help. He could be like kind of a glue guy for that defense to really bring them together, provide more leadership. We know that Tom Brady's the leader of the team and the leader of the offense, but they maybe are struggling, you know, whether it's Devin Bush, whether it's Jason Pierre-Paul, whether it's, you know, whoever on that defense. He may be a guy that kind of rallies the secondary back together. You talked about Sean Murphy-Bunting being hurt and some of the other guys being banged up. Bringing in Richard Sherman, an experienced player, a great cover corner, could be a guy who really brings that defense together. And I think, you know, for them, easy signing. Veteran leadership, Super Bowl champion, shown great tools, great abilities to cover for a long period of time, you know, a guy who really had to grind out his career, but still making things happen on defense. I think it's a great signing for the Bucs. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, and I was trying to see what happened to him, you know, because I was looking at his statistics from last year to see how he played. He didn't play in a ton of games, but I guess he got on injured reserve. He had a calf strain, was activated in November, first interception. So he was just released, and, you know, 49ers went in a different direction. I think this is a good signing. They need veteran leadership. They need help on the back end. Richard Sherman can still play. His game was never predicated on just being this uber athletic type cornerback. He knows the game. He's smart. It's like having the defensive back version of Tom Brady on your side of the defense. And that's what he's going to bring. I think he's going to help this defense out tremendously because right now they are getting sliced and diced through the air. I don't think we can expect
second last in passing yards allowed.
They're second last in passing yards allowed.
And they've allowed the most touchdowns in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, that's not going to cut it, man. And especially when we talked about Tampa Bay not having a ground game. I would assume, and can you look this up while I'm talking, they've got to have one of the worst rushing offenses in the NFL. They have to. I would say if I had to bet money on it, they've got to be bottom 5 in the NFL in rushing right now. So when you don't have a dominant run game, your defense is giving up all kind of yards through the air. That does not bode well for what you're asking 44-year-old Tom Brady to do week in and week out. And, they were down Antonio Brown. This is a good move for Tampa Bay. I'm not about to lose my, flip out and say, oh my God, this is the best signing in the history of the NFL. But this is a good signing. And Evan said, to be fair, they played Dallas and LA, who are top 5 passing attacks. Well, that's what it's going to take to win the Super Bowl. I mean, you're not going to play against Jacksonville.
Just to even win the NFC, they gotta beat those teams, right?
This doesn't matter. You need to be able to at least show up versus those teams. And it would be different if they put up a fight through the air versus Dallas versus LA. They were eviscerated through the air. Dak Prescott, having not played football in 336 days, 0 preseason snaps, borderline no reps in training camp, to go out there and slice that defense up on Thursday Night Football, it's inexcusable. And then versus, one of the biggest games of the season versus the Rams, to just get gutted over the top underneath this excuse. For those of y'all who may be tapping in for the first time, one of the things that I just do not stand for is excuses. I just don't. Oh, well, they played a hard defense. Oh, well, he had a hard matchup. Sam Howell didn't look good, but Virginia Tech's I don't care. Perform when you need to perform. We want to praise teams for stopping the Jacksonville Jaguars, and then when you get your ass tore up versus Dallas and the Rams, we want to say, oh, well, they're a good team. Do you think a bad team is going to make it to the NFC Championship game? Do you think a bad team is going to make the playoffs? They needed help. They're getting killed through the air. This is a good signing for Tampa Bay.
Yeah, so to your point about the rushing, what do you think their longest carry is on the season? And they only have 169 rushing yards, second last in the NFL.
I knew they were bottom 5. Their longest carry is probably 19 yards.
10 yards is the longest carry they've had all season long, which is dead last in the NFL. It's worse than the Packers, worse than the Falcons, Saints, Rams. Rams, actually, their long is only 15, which is pretty funny. But yeah, not good for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They're not running the ball enough. They only have 48 attempts, which also might be dead last. Yeah, 48 attempts.
They only have
also
48 rush attempts?
Yeah, dead last in the NFL. The Steelers only have 50. Jets only have 61. Jaguars have 61. Seahawks have 63. They need to run the ball. You can't win if you don't run the ball. So do you want to go back to the Bengals?
Yeah, let's go back. Yeah, sorry, let's go back. So let's talk about Jamar Chase, right? Chase and Jefferson over under half a touchdown. Is Jamar Chase going to stay in the flames and score a touchdown versus Jacksonville? Lock that shit in. Yes.
Hell yeah.
Yes. He is going to go for 4 straight. I think he's going to blow up on the big stage versus Jacksonville. This team is not good. We saw them do a decent job against Arizona last week. Again, I thought Jacksonville played really tough that game. I thought they played really hard. I think they showed up versus Arizona. It looked like for a minute Arizona was going to lose that game. But, ultimately Cliff Kingsbury and Kyler Murray had other plans. But I think this is a lock. I think Jamar Chase is going for another 1 to 2 touchdowns versus the Jaguars. We know when they want to take a deep shot, they're going to Jamar Chase. They're not going to Tyler Boyd deep. They're going to Jamar Chase deep. And it always happens like at a point where you think he's not doing anything. Like Jamar Chase has done nothing this game. And then you see Joe Burrow drop back and you see the ball go in the air and you just know it's going to number one. And then he catches a touchdown. I think this is a lock. What about you?
Yeah, I love this number. I believe it's minus 115 right now, depending on the book you look at. Like you said, 3 straight weeks. It's going to be easy for Jamar Chase to shred this Jacksonville defense. And we're suspecting T. Higgins is not going to play on Thursday. So if he doesn't play, again, more targets for Jamar Chase, more targets for Tyler Boyd, more carries for Joe Mixon. I just love this over for the touchdowns. We talked about yesterday, where if you bet on Jamar Chase to score every single week, if you put $100 on it, you would have $600 today. And so you could keep rolling that. We talked about players. We love their props going forward. Jamar Chase is on pace to easily hit his over, which is only 6.5 for the year. And he could probably hit double digits with ease with the way he's scoring touchdowns right now. That chemistry you see it each and every game. People talked about how he's going to lose snaps to Auden Tate. People said the same thing about Justin Jefferson being the number 3 option. It's not going to happen, man. It's not going to happen. As much as I like T. Higgins, Jamar Chase is probably going to be the alpha in this offense, averaging 20 yards a reception, 36% touchdown rate. He's just balling right now. It's very easy to see why he was such a high pick in the draft.
Well, and you make a good point. Like on a short week where you've got limited practice time, limited film, limited study time, if I'm the coach, I'm saying, Joe, what are you comfortable with? Like, let's do what you're comfortable with, and what Joe Burrow was comfortable with is throwing to Jamar Chase. And I do like Tyler Boyd's lines. Evan said could boost Boyd. I think so. Boyd's set at 5.5 receptions right now. I like that. 57.5 yards on PointsBet for Tyler Boyd. I was more interested in Tyler Boyd's touchdown prop, but it's only 135, plus 135 for Tyler Boyd. So not a lot of juice on that side, which I think Joe Burrow may be the play. I think Cincinnati's going to put on a show versus Jacksonville tomorrow night. And I think a lot of that – go ahead.
One thing I will say, to your point about Jacksonville playing well last week, they only put up 12 points on offense. And then the previous week against the Broncos, they only put up 13 points because they did have that return touchdown. That was
the bar is low. The bar is low for Jacksonville to play well, right? Like the bar is not high.
But I mean, if Trevor Lawrence is going to throw 2 picks again, the Bengals are going to win. They're going to cover that spread. And that's why I like them to cover the spread. I think the defense is plenty good enough. James Robinson, like we talked about, or Joe. We'll start with Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon, 20 rush attempts. I think this is an easy smash. We've looked at this line every single week. It started at 15.5 or 16.5, went to 17.5, went to 18.5. Now it's at 19.5 because they are running this offense through Joe Mixon. And against the Jaguars, he is going to hit this prop, I think, probably in 3 quarters because they're going to run the ball a ton. I think they're going to have a lot of success. I just see a situation where Joe Mixon runs the ball 30 times. He goes off for like 150 yards. To me, it comes down to if he can break a big run. If he breaks a big run, then maybe he doesn't hit it because he's not going to have to run as much. But even I think his over-under is where it's at like 84.5 yards. I don't mind that number, but I just think the carries are just guaranteed for him right now. He's getting like 95% of the rushing load. He, I believe, is second in the NFL in total carries, only behind Derrick Henry. That should tell you everything you need to know. If you're second in the league in carries behind Derrick Henry, you're probably going to get 20 carries a game because Derrick Henry gets like 25 to 28 carries every single game. So I really like this number for Joe Mixon. I think he's going to smash the over. I could see him going for 25 to 30. It just depends on game script. But again, and then as well, Joe Burrow's pass attempts, they're going to be down. Like they're going to be low. He's listed at 31.5. He's been hitting like 25. He hit 18, I think, a couple weeks ago. Yeah. He is not going to be throwing the ball that much against the Jacksonville Jaguars. 31 is way too high, working off of last year's averages. It's a new year, new offense, a lot of Joe Mixon and not a whole lot of Joe Burrow. But Jamar Chase to go in the end zone, love that number as well.
Remember all those people who thought Joe Mixon was cooked? Like they were like, Joe Mixon. I don't like Joe Mixon. Yeah, fuck out of here. James Robinson. 52.5 over under. They finally unleashed J-Rob last week, and he looked good. Like, it's about time they stopped with this Carlos Hyde nonsense and give James Robinson the ball. Cincinnati's defense is good. Like, let's give credit where credit is due. Trey Hendrickson and company, they had a linebacker last week with 2 interceptions and 14 tackles, which is just crazy. I forgot his name, but it's a good defense. But J-Rob, 52.5 yards. Are you back in on James Robinson, who I think is really one of the better running backs in the NFL if you just give him the ball? Where are you at with J-Rob and his over-under 52.5?
I got to take the under. I
Okay.
think I'm staying in the flames with these running backs getting stopped by the Cincinnati defense. The D-line is great. Like I said, they stopped much better running backs in the past and held them to low yardage. I just think that the books haven't quite caught up with how good this defense has been. I believe they're still top 10 in rush defense. They're honestly even probably top 10 in overall defense as far as points scored. They're just not allowing a lot of points. They're not allowing a ton of yards, and they're just methodically playing the game with Joe Burrow and running back. I don't know. I think he's a good running back. I just don't think this is his week. In the same way it wasn't Najee's week, in the same way I didn't love it for David Montgomery. I don't really love it for J-Rob, but he could. It's really just one big run and a few small runs. But the problem is if they get behind, they're going to abandon the run, and Trevor Lawrence is going to throw the ball like 40 times, and they're going to lose the game because that's not how they can win. And as well, the offensive line is pretty suspect. And so if the defensive line for the Bengals is as good as I think it is, and the offensive line is as suspect as I think it is, I think that this could easily be a number that J-Rob only hits like 30, maybe 35. But if he breaks off a big run, maybe he could hit it if you're feeling confident.
I'm trying to look up Jacksonville's offensive line to see because, yeah, Najee didn't get it, but we know that line is poop, and we know Ben Roethlisberger stinks. So I don't think they'll be able to crowd the dude. They were throwing, and I'm not even joking, like 8 in the box and just singling up the wide receivers and saying, I dare you to throw the ball deep. Like, I dare you to throw it deep. I don't know. I probably would stay away from it, but I'll just say it wouldn't shock me if James Robinson had 60, 70 rushing yards in this matchup. Again, coming off of a short week in which they lost, Cincinnati does a really good job of getting pressure on the quarterback. You've got a young guy. The best way to take pressure off of him is to ball control that thing, and you've got one of the better running backs in the league. I truly believe James Robinson is one of the better running backs. I'm not saying best, I'm not saying top 10, but one of the better competent running backs in the league. And just feed him, ride him, and it paid off last week. You saw the explosiveness, you saw him grind out yards. But I'm with you, man. Cincinnati, I just think they're the superior team. They're the better coach team. Even though offensively, I don't even think they've unleashed Joe Burrow yet, but it's a short week. I don't think this is going to be a shootout. I think Cincinnati wins this game, and I'd probably give the points to Jacksonville. I think they cover. I think they cover 7.5. So Jamar Chase is going to have a good night, and that's really where I'm at with this matchup.
Do we see any of Dan Arnold? Is he even going to suit up today? Because they traded away. It's not Travion Henderson. That's the running back for
the
running
back.
State.
CJ Henderson.
CJ Henderson.
Yeah, CJ Henderson.
CJ Henderson.
Good cornerback.
Getting my Hendersons mixed up.
Do we see Dan Arnold?
Yeah. Do you think we see some Dan Arnold?
Why are we even talking about this? Who cares?
Why not? Maybe he gets a touchdown. Maybe he can get some Dan Arnold props.
Let's see. Does Dan Arnold have a prop? Let's just see.
And to your point, James Robinson, 2.5 yards after contact per attempt. Decent, middle of the pack as far as FTN stats go. So he's doing some stuff on his own, which is great to see. But the offensive line still isn't that great. I'm trying to find the exact numbers on their offensive line, but it's a bit all over the place right now.
They've got Dan Arnold plus 600 to score a touchdown. It's not bad.
I don't know. He's probably not going to play. That's really the only fear, right? But if he does see the field and you see him running routes, maybe you just hit that in game.
You could hit that in game. You could throw $10 on it to win you some gas money. That wouldn't be bad, right?
Gas money bets with GQ.
Gas money. Get all gas. That's all we do. We bet gas money.